This is a WTXL News Special Report. Florida Governor Rick Scott's State of the State Address.
Hello and welcome to this ABC 27 special report. I'm Abby Phillips. We are just moments away from Governor Rick Scott giving his State of the State address to the Florida legislature. And we have team coverage at the Florida Capitol this morning. ABC 27 evening anchor Ann Emanuel is there with the latest. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning, Abby, and thanks for joining us for this special report on this very important day, the first day of the Florida legislative session. In just a few moments, we expect Governor Rick Scott to deliver the State of the State address. He is walking in the House chamber right now. When he begins talking, we will bring that to you live. In the meantime, I'd like to introduce our political analyst, Senator Bob McKnight, who joins us for this special coverage. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ann. Good to be here.
We got a little bit of a preview of the governor's speech, and he's entitled it, "Let's Get to Work Together." He'll be stressing cooperation. What do you expect that Floridians want to hear from the governor?
Well, I think it's a sound message. I think it's a little different than the message last year, and the time is right, and the governor needs to understand that the legislature, at least for the next 60 days, is really calling the shots. He's going to need a lot of help. He says his priority is education. He can't do it without support of the legislature.
You mentioned education. The governor has recommended in his budget a $1 billion boost to education. Is that feasible?
It's going to be very difficult. I know he has singled out the lottery, which in the past, of course, has had a little bit of a tarnished reputation in terms of the legislature diverting money. I think he's going to have to look realistically at enhancing the sources of funding. That may look at broadening the application. It may be looking at closing some loopholes as well.
Again, we should mention what the governor says, it is just a recommendation. It's up to the legislators to really make those tough decisions.
And you know, Ann, you're so right, and I don't think he understood that in his first session. Now, as I've said many times with you, I'm not criticizing his intelligence. I'm just simply pointing out there's a learning curve involved, and you can just now see it take some traction with the governor.
Absolutely. He's stressing cooperation. He says he wants to focus on jobs, education, and making Florida an enjoyable place to live. Do you expect we'll hear anything groundbreaking in this State of the State address?
I don't think so. He doesn't seem like he's that kind of an inspirational speaker. Now, we could be wrong, but I think if he just simply implements some of the fundamentals that he has articulated in the past, because his implementation, as we can see by his polling is distressful. And I think the problem has been his inexperience at actually governing something like a public institution.
All right, the governor is making his way to the podium right now. We want to join the governor's State of the State address in progress.
Okay. Members of the legislature, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to introduce to you the jobs governor, the 45th governor of the great state of Florida, Rick Scott. It is your time.
Okay,
Go get him.
thank you.
We're proud of you.
I'll do my best. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please have a seat. The Senate President didn't have to introduce me because they are all doing it outside. It also took me longer to walk in today because I think I know a lot more people this year. It's great to be here. I just want to tell you before I start, I've really enjoyed all of you, just meeting everybody, and just the commitment everybody has to this state. So thank you very much, and thanks for everything you've done how nice you've been to my family. So, all right, get started. All right, thank you very much. My fellow Floridians, President Herodopoulos, members, Speaker Cannon, members of the Florida Senate and members of the Florida House of Representatives, Chief Justice Kennedy, members of the Florida Supreme Court, my fellow cabinet members, Chief Financial Attorney General Pam Bondi, Chief Financial Officer Jeff Atwater, Commissioner Adam Putnam, and my partner, Lieutenant Governor Jennifer Carroll. It's an honor to be with every one of you here today, and it's a real special honor for me to be your governor. As you know, I've always been a big believer in getting to work early. But this is the first time we've ever shown up for work 2 months early. I told that to my family last night, and I said, do you think anybody will get it? And they said, well, we got it, so hopefully they will. Let me start by introducing my wife of 39 years, Ann. And I'm real honored that my daughter Allison is right next to her, and her husband, her husband Pierre, and our grandson August. So who is he is 8 weeks old today. So, and I apologize for everybody that I've had to show pictures of him to. So, I didn't, when Allison and our other daughter was born, we didn't have iPhones, and so I couldn't show pictures like that. So, but it's a real, I'm very thankful that my family's here. People ask Ann and me why we ran for this job, and clearly we ran for this job together. When I told Ann, or tried to talk Ann into saying she'd be great, it'd be fine if I ran, she said, great, as long as I don't have to give speeches. 30 days later, she was giving talks, we called them, and so we clearly ran for office together. So, but the reason we ran is, there's one simple truth. We can never look at our children, Allison and Jordan, our son-in-laws, now our grandchild August, without feeling our love for them. And we know that this type of love also carries a very specific duty. That duty is to leave our children a better place than we inherited it. It's the same duty that probably brought each of you to this chamber today. And it's a duty that extends to all the children, every child of this great state. Like you, we're willing to give our all to make Florida absolutely the best place to live and raise a family. A state where you can find a job, get a quality education for your children. A state where you can enjoy a low cost of living, free of burdensome taxes and unnecessary government interference. A state where dreams absolutely become a reality each and every day. Last session, together, we made the changes necessary to improve the opportunities for the citizens of our state. Education, pension, and Medicaid reforms, coupled with government reorganization and deregulation. All those things have helped produce jobs. They save taxpayers money, and they improve the education of our children, and they bring down the cost of living for all Floridians. We worked together to accomplish all of this. And so if I haven't told each of you face to face, on behalf of all the citizens of this great state, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like all of you, as you know, I love this job. I love my work. I tell people everywhere I go, if you like people and you want to try to make a difference, there is absolutely no better job than being governor of the greatest state in the country, the governor of Florida. I've been on the job for a year now, and I have traveled all over the state. I've been to all sorts of small towns, all the large towns. I tell everybody, if they say they live in a city, I say I probably was there 2 weeks ago. I've had the honor of meeting and listening to thousands of Floridians, and they've shared with me their joys and their concern. And you know what? It turns out they share the same joy and the same concern. The joy is in living in this most special place, getting the opportunity to live in Florida. It's a place of sunshine, it's a place of beaches. We've got cities that pulse with energy and light. A place where clear rivers flow to blue oceans. And a place where bold people come to build their dreams. From our shores, we have launched men to the moon. And with the same brave spirit, millions have come here to plant their flag in Florida soil to build something new and better. I know Ann and I did. I know many of you have felt that same joy here. But with that joy comes a lagging doubt. When I talk to Floridians, they worry that their best opportunities are behind them, that their children may never experience the security and prosperity that they've known. They wonder whether the ringing proclamation of progress has been silenced, that the birthright of ever greater promise and opportunity that we once saw as within our reach may instead now be unattainable. It's clearly understandable that they would feel this doubt. Following a series of very prosperous and productive years, Floridians saw the unemployment rate begin to steadily climb in 2006. From a low of 3.3% that year, it grew to a high of 12% in December 2010. Floridians saw home values drop, wages decline, and jobs and opportunities fade away. My fellow Floridians, I'm here today to tell you that promise and opportunity absolutely will return. In fact, they are returning, even as we meet here today. While we have many miles to go, and some of them clearly will be painful, our higher journey is already underway. This year and today, we see the rebirth of an even greater Florida. But don't take my word for it. Let's look at the numbers. In the past year, Floridians, not government, created almost 135,000 new private sector jobs. Thank you. And thank goodness, because everybody remembers I said 7 steps to 700,000 jobs. So I'll be glad when we get to the 700,000. So we netted more than 120,000 total jobs in the first 11 months of 2011. That's the third most of any state in the nation. In Florida, those new jobs produced the second largest drop in unemployment in the country. There's only one state ahead of us. So when my campaign, when I said let's get to work, it wasn't just a slogan. Florida got to work, and each Floridian deserves the credit. But who also deserves the credit are each of you, the legislators in this room. Last year, you passed and I signed a budget we balanced without raising taxes or fees, despite a revenue shortfall of nearly $4 billion. We did this by making government lean and effective. Thank each of you for displaying this unprecedented courage and commitment. Thank you. The steps we have taken in the last year have made a positive difference in the lives of working Floridians. We need to continue, though, to cut red tape, lower taxes, and bring growth to Florida. In addition to jobs growing, just 3 weeks ago, the U.S. Census Bureau announced that despite a record low growth rate on the national level, Florida grew by more than 250,000 people in a 15-month period. That's amazing. This makes us the third fastest growing state in the country and puts us within reach of passing the state of New York in population. This is a clear sign that the promise of Florida still burns bright. And I should add, to all of our friends in New York, come on down. And Illinois. Our temperature outdoors is about twice as high as yours, and your tax burden per citizen is about twice as high as ours. Those are good numbers for us. Think about it. The state of New York, which has about the same population as Florida does, has a budget roughly twice as large as ours. So on top of when I call all these companies, they say, what's the temperature? And then I ask, what's your taxes? And how much did you have to pay last year? You'd have to pay dramatically less. So you, the legislature, all need to be commended for years of tough decisions, balancing our budget, and delivering quality services in education and infrastructure to our citizens at half the price New Yorkers pay. Half the price. And for those of us already in Florida, what do these numbers tell us? They tell us the journey ahead is long and will continue to test us. As a people, the decisions we make in the next few months will determine whether we continue to create a business climate that will produce jobs and opportunities for Floridians, whether we fully recapture the spirit of human potential that is the core of what it means to be a Floridian. I'm absolutely convinced that we will. My friends, the state of our state will continue to improve. And what are those decisions we need to make to ensure these things happen? There are many. So I'd like to focus on what I believe are the three most important jobs I have as your governor. One, ensuring that Floridians are able to gain employment. Two, securing the right of every Floridian to a quality education. And three, keep the cost of living low so that the families and businesses that are in our state can continue to prosper and grow. And the ones that aren't here know they have to get here as soon as they can. When it comes to jobs, it's important to remind ourselves that private businesses create enduring jobs, not government. What government gives to one person necessarily had to be taken in the pocket of somebody else. There's something arrogant and overreaching in thinking we have the superior wisdom to micromanage an economy. Having spent decades in business and now 1 year in government, I'm convinced more than ever that with few exceptions, the best thing government can do is to create a level playing field and then get out of the way. Get out of the way and let people compete. What happens with competition? People get better. Quality gets better, service gets better, prices get better. So, but if we put Florida companies in the position where we can outcompete companies in any other state, in any other country, what happens? Jobs are going to grow like crazy. Now, as we all know, small businesses create most of the jobs in Florida. I know this from my own experience. I started in business when Ann and I bought a single donut shop so my mom could have a job. Before long, we had 2 donut shops and we had more employees. 2 resources were absolutely critical in allowing me or any small business to grow and to create these jobs. Capital and time. Every donut I sold gave me more capital to hire more people and buy more equipment. And by the way, if you own a donut shop, you don't have to worry about all your employees eating the donuts. After the second day, it's too hard. So we always told them they could have as many donuts as they wanted. After the second day, they didn't eat any. After we sold out, I love donuts. So I'm back to eating donuts. But every minute I spent focused on the business resulted in growth and more jobs. So we have somebody in the gallery today who also knows something about the potential of job creation in donut shops. Rachel Waddy came to the United States 12 years ago from the Philippines. And she's owned, anybody from Tampa, she's owned Nicola's Donuts in Tampa for the past year. So Rachel hosted me at my first Let's Get to Work day, and I told her I would not be the best at making donuts, but I know how to sell them. And it worked out. We sold out 240 dozen donuts. We started, I think, at 6 o'clock. They were all gone by 8:30. So Nicola's been in business for 30 years. They have 2 locations. They've been voted Best Donuts in Tampa by the Tampa Tribune, and one of the 24 best donuts in America by Travel and Leisure magazine. They've recently added cupcakes, and my mom came down, and now they know how to sell a great apple fritter. So Rachel and her husband Luther are here, if they'll stand up, and they're a great example. They're a great example of the hard work it takes to run a small business and just how our economy will grow. So I'm very appreciative that they came here. We had a lot of fun that day. And when there was media there. There's one thing about this job, there's a media around a little bit. And so Rachel thought I was speaking too long to the media, so she brought a bunch of donuts to me and told me I had to get to work. So the media, of course, loved that. So taxes and regulations, they are the great destroyers of capital and time for small businesses. Almost every dollar I earned as a shop owner went toward growing our little donut shops. So every dollar taken in taxes slows the growth, and that impacts jobs. Almost every minute I had in the day also went toward growing our small business. So every minute I had to spend addressing some new rule or regulation also slowed growth. So when growth slows in small businesses, what happens? Jobs are the first casualties. So this session, we need to lower burdensome taxes on small businesses and continue our mission of slashing red tape in Florida. We must also improve the machinery by which government seekers, can get a job. I propose greater accountability for our workforce boards so that tax money is not wasted and the purpose of those boards is fulfilled, to get people jobs. That's the entire purpose and the only purpose. I'm also asking you to require job training for those who are receiving unemployment checks. I'm sure like in your life, in my life, every challenge creates an opportunity. And time in between jobs gives unemployed Floridians the opportunity to learn new skills. Now, while lowering taxes and eliminating unnecessary regulations are critical, the bedrock of any sound, sustainable economy is an educated workforce, well equipped to meet the challenges of an advanced global marketplace. In my own life, I've seen firsthand how education puts the American dream within reach. As you know, I grew up poor. As a kid, I delivered newspapers for 5 cents a week, or $5 a week. When I wasn't delivering newspapers, I was selling TV guides. No one probably can remember that, for 4 cents profit a copy. And I flipped hamburgers for 85 cents an hour. Those are all jobs that I learned something in every one of those jobs. So today I stand before you privileged to be the governor of the greatest state in the greatest nation in the world. This is the American dream. It's a story told 1,000 times with each generation. And the means by which it is accomplished is an effective and accountable education system. So we can have great weather, we can have beautiful beaches, we can have a wonderfully strategic location, which we have. But if Florida doesn't provide the intellectual talent to make our businesses competitive, we will become a footnote when this century's history is written. But if we can continue to create a culture of excellence in our schools, Florida will merit a full chapter in that history that describes a reawakening of a mighty, prosperous nation and state. And we begin to do this by building on the success of last session, when we increased school choice for Florida's parents. We also refocused an outdated tenure system into a system that can reward its best performers for excelling in educating our students. As you know, as you each know, none of that was particularly easy. But all of it was obviously necessary if we're to give our children their chance to grasp the future. I want to thank each of you for your willingness to confront those issues, because I think long term they're going to have a dramatic impact on our state. So I've spent the past 2 years, as you know, traveling the state and listening to Floridians all about their visions for the future of our state. So I'd like to take a moment now to recognize one of Florida's talented, hardworking educators who has taught me a great deal about the bright futures of our students and our state. Heather Vanier is here with us today in the gallery. Heather is a first-year teacher in the rural farming community of Immokalee. I had the opportunity to meet her when I taught school for a day this fall. Heather is she's very committed to her students. She teaches American government at Immokalee High School. Her students she teaches honors, advanced placement, English easy for me, English language learners every day. And just as all of us have hopes and dreams for our future, our kids' future, our grandkids' future, so do her students. So when I talk to her students, they want to do everything from being a chef to a veterinarian. They want to be a hairdresser, a doctor, a lawyer. Some of them wanted to own shops. They weren't sure what shops yet, but they wanted to own shops. But educators like Heather, these students and their dreams are clearly that's what's going to drive the prosperity of our state. So if Heather would stand up, I just want to thank you for all you do for her. You know, my other daughter taught special needs kids for 4 years. She's gone back to get a third degree now, but gosh, these teachers just love their students. I mean, you can see it with Heather and her kids, and I can see it with my daughter. So after traveling the state and listening to parents, teachers like Heather, and other students, I heard one thing very clearly, over and over. Floridians truly believe that support for education is the most significant thing we can do to ensure both short-term job growth and long-term economic prosperity for our state. And you know what? They're absolutely right. That's why this session, I ask you to continue your commitment to education, to ensure that the difficult decisions we must make on the budget are focused on prioritizing the things we all know are essential to the future of our great state. As you know, my recommended budget includes $1 billion in new state funding for education. I ask each of you to consider that, take my recommendation very carefully, think about it very carefully. And as you know, as I've said on this point, I just can't budge. I ask you again to send me a budget that significantly increases state funding for education. This is the single most important decision we can make today for Florida's future. But our efforts on education cannot end.
Well, you just heard the majority of the governor's State of the State address right here on ABC 27. We will be right back with the news at noon, where the senator and I will join you for more political insight.